What's up, y'all? Reggie here with another video for you for the Utopian project. And just doing these last few videos, I left out a few things and I was like, thinking about some stuff, and I was like, I wanted to go back and do another video kind of explaining a few things about myself and some of my positions, stances, if you will, or whatever. So a few things that I know, these aren't beliefs. These are things that I know to be actual fact. The issue is that some things I know people have to experience the truth in order for it to be in their consciousness as a fact. Some things you have to experience, and therefore you have to be open to experiencing them. You have to go down that road to be able to do that. So with that being said, a few things I know. We as humans have a creator. There have been systems of lies, et cetera, to keep us from realizing the true nature of our relationship with that creator and what that creator created, meaning ourselves and Earth. And there are constant lies and agencies who help proliferate those lies. I know that we are inherently good. We are born with the understanding of what it is, of simple understandings of do unto others. And we can build simple logical systems of how to treat other people based on this simple concept. And we are born inherently good, contrary to born inherently sinful, even though I identify as a Christian. So I know that to be fact. We are inherently good until influenced to be otherwise. And that influence will come from other humans or from not understanding, which is ultimately other humans, but from not understanding your relationship with your creator. And the fact that however we define divinity, if we are created, then we are divine by default. So again, if you think about, other things that I know is that the powers that be understand that as long as you feel that you are separate from your creator or your creative source, et cetera, then you will always be at unrest and unease and be more likely to be seeking an artificial savior, false prophet or false savior, or the government. You want the government or these corporations, et cetera, to be your savior or your quote unquote God. Now, Norma, notice how I haven't invoked the word God yet. But I know that to be a fact. So I also know that we are inherently quote unquote conservative, more so than we are led to believe. And that's been proven also through a multitude of various tests and kind of studies that have been done when people didn't know that they were being questioned from a political standpoint. And I'm not really trying to be political. I'm just saying the things that have been put out there to be liberal versus conservative, people are more conservative in nature than we are led to believe. And again, when we are influenced to be otherwise, we end up being more quote unquote liberal. Now, ultimately, these things are really one and the same. And they are just kind of, when you start leaning one side to the other, it's by influence. And this influence is trying to make you choose a side instead of having this constant flowing of seeking further enlightenment and truth about whatever the topic is at hand. So, and that's the other point I want to get into. So when it comes to these controversial topics, whether it be Andrew Tate, Kanye, Charleston White. These are the things that are in my algorithm. Andrew Tate, Charleston White, Kanye, Joe Rogan, Dave Chappelle, whatever, whoever, you name it. The powers that be also know that this is a fact, that the longer you communicate with somebody, the higher the chance of you seeking common ground and realizing that you actually agree on more than you disagree on. This is a fact. So this is why learning this cancel culture and the unforgivingness, the unforgiving nature of what these folks with the machine and these corporations and the media, et cetera, are what they do and attempt to do through politics and through the media and manipulation of information and facts and withholding certain information, which is a lie by omission, error by omission, which is a logical fallacy, et cetera, lying by omission, which creates false narratives, creates false pictures of what the truth is, et cetera. It's all, again, attempting to cloud the truth. So whatever the topic is, if you can get out of the emotional complex of wanting to win and actually be interested in seeking and finding more of the truth, you'll find that most things that people argue about, as the saying goes, the truth is multi-sided or has three sides. It's this person's, that person's, whoever, if it's a typical argument. You have this person, the other person, and then the truth in the middle somewhere. But the truth is about a certain situation is usually multifaceted, and it has to be broken down into more than one thing. So when you attempt to put someone in a box to make it easier for you to try to win an argument or win this feeling, you take away that possibility of seeking further truth and enlightenment, and you trade it for the idea of winning. And you could have won more understanding and more, you could have broken it down, whatever that topic is. If you are still arguing, there's more than likely more information to be had and to be spoken about, and the topic is more broad than you might think it is. Again, as I stated in my other video, there are very few things that's not the case. Again, messing with children is one of them, and also, as I alluded to in another video, non-emergency violence to me is another one, and whether that be brandishing a firearm when you don't need to, et cetera, as I talked about in one of my other videos. And there's others probably that I could come across, but those two are in my purview or whatever here lately. But there are very few things that don't have a gray area and nuance that needs to be, fleshed out. So when it comes to these controversial topics, people want to just win and fight and be angry and be emotional. And it takes you having to work on yourself and your responses and how you deal with emotion and your emotional choices, because emotions, that's another thing that's a fact. Your emotions are choices. So unless you have, an issue. And even if most people who have issues don't really have issues. Most people, as far as I'm concerned. I won't say that that's a fact, but that's my opinion. These are learned complexes that make people feel like they have an issue. And it's usually just something simple like denial or not understanding, again, your divinity, your relation. So you're seeking something. But anyway, that's another topic. All right. There are certainly people who have, we all have faults. There are certain people who are born with certain situations, shall we say. So I'm not going to deny that. So, but yeah, these are things that I know. So when you practice cancel culture or wanting to create an echo chambers are for cowards, and agreeing to disagree is really also for cowards. Agreeing to disagree is for people who can't prove their point and are too much of a coward to admit that they need to concede what they were trying to prove. All right. So it's relatively, let me throw this word out here again. It's narcissistic for you to agree to disagree, because you're being self-centered. You're just wanting to walk away with the feeling of not being defeated. When somebody needs to admit that they can't further prove whatever point they were trying to prove. And what you're supposed to do is, if you're interested in the truth of that point, is you go do more research, et cetera, et cetera. But you can see the point for the time being, at least. And you can say that you can come back to it or whatever the case is. But somebody's proving as far as the win-win idea goes. Somebody is not proving the point that they're trying to make. And that's the bottom line. And you need to be man or woman enough to own up to it. But the hope and the divinity there, the silver lining, is that there's more. You should be able to get that dopamine release and that win feeling of coming back and having more discourse with a person. And then you end up agreeing. That always makes people feel better. You realize there's 2 or 3 more other nuances and tangents and things that were kind of clouding what it is that was being argued, or the point you were trying to make, et cetera, et cetera. And then you agree on 2 or 3 other things that you realized that was kind of clouding the argument and the point you were trying to make. So then that gives you a good feeling. And then you realize maybe you were wrong about one thing, right? And you can say, well, I'll concede that now, because now you have common ground on 3 other new things, and that's exciting. And you might have learned something in the process, et cetera, et cetera. So these megalomaniacs, these megalomaniacal, evil, racist, slavery, coercion using SOBs that are trying to run the earth, they're trying to run the world, they know all of this. And this is what they do, and this is why they run the media, and this is why they are going to be, if not already, in other cases, they have already been, in your inbox, in your messages, all right? And they are fighting to be able to. This is why they're always using fear, phobias, misinformation, and the idea that you need to give up certain liberties in order to be safe, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. All right? You get the point. But anyway, I just want to come back and make this point kind of as a rant and this general kind of, just wanting to put out how I see so many things going on and why I'm so interested in jabbering and running my mouth about whatever the topic is. Because as I stated in a couple other videos, like, I don't know all the information about freaking Tory Lanez's case or Andrew Tate or whatever else. But certain points, when I see people making certain points, and to me, not to me, they're just not valid points, or it's easy for them to defeat, or they're making logical fallacies or whatever else, I'm going to chime in. I want to do my part in not supporting the crap that goes on with suppressing free conversation. It's not about freedom of speech. It's about free conversation and disagreeing, because these people don't want you to figure out more and more of the truth about you, about your fellow man, fellow woman, your neighbor, and how you can really come together. The more you talk, the more you communicate with somebody. If you can get past these learned responses of canceling everybody and creating echo chambers and wanting to feel like you're right above everybody else, if you understood that you were divine, it would keep you from doing certain things, hopefully keep you from doing and behaving certain ways. The more you learn about your divinity, knowledge of self, et cetera, et cetera. So, and then you don't have to, but by default, you start looking at things differently, and you start saying, this is trivial to me. I want to know more about what's going on. So it helps you understand how and why to enter certain conversations and leave certain conversations a certain way, and not being afraid of being wrong about something. But you don't have to be that afraid if you just enter conversations in appropriate ways, and admitting that you don't know everything. And again, asking questions if you're not sure. But anyway, before this one gets too long, I just want to do a rant a little bit, and just because I'm just tired of cancel culture. I'm tired of the bull crap. I'm tired of the nonsense that I see going on with the media and the machine, and how people don't seem to recognize this, and people get caught up in it, and people just brew hate and negativity and hate, obviously. Fear, right? It was already said, what fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate leads to the dark side. And people just people just want to engage in arguments and judgments and not talking to people. about important topics and about important situations. And if the more you do, the more you can do that, the more you will realize that most of us all want the same thing, and we all agree on most of the things that are going on. You can break them down to things that we all agree on. So anyway, love, peace, and light, and I'll see you in the next video. I think I've made my point here. All right, see ya. Happy New Year, by the way.